Hello, my name is Matilda, and welcome to this memoir/autobiography edition of Reading Recap. If you hear a title that you do not want spoiled, please skip ahead or click away. Any trigger warnings I can think of will be listed in the description below. Book 1, The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom by Shari Franke. I gave 4.5 out of 5. This is an autobiography written by the daughter of Ruby Franke, the birther of the 8 Passengers YouTube channel. Autobiographies are always hard to rate for me, but I did really enjoy this one. Not what happens in it, but the way it was written. Trauma was described in ways that didn't hurt me too much as the reader, while still telling me what happened. I'm impressed with her storytelling and resilience at such a young age. The internet says she had a ghostwriter helping, so I'm not sure how much was her directly, but I like this nonetheless. I generally avoid true crime, but this one was done in an easily digestible way. Shari speaks about Ruby's motivations early on. She had planned to go to college and meet a man and become his wife. She had a list of qualities she wanted and had boys in a race to be hers. Ruby has this evil vibe to her. I don't understand why anyone would have even put up with this. On one date with Kevin and another guy, Kevin realized Ruby was holding both his hand and the other's, and said, "No ma'am, just me," and they quickly got married and he melted at her feet. There's so much power between these two that fascinates me, and I'll never understand. They end up having 6 kids, one being Shari. At a young age, she is forced to learn to play the piano, and Ruby smacks her when she messes up. Shari gets anxiety and struggles with depression and suicidal thoughts, and asks to go to therapy, which her parents deny her. This is sadly so common. If your child requests a doctor for physical or mental needs, listen to them and take them, or just don't have kids. Eventually, I think it's Kevin who wears down and agrees, allowing her to get help. Shari befriends a boy at school and they end up kissing and texting a lot in secret. One day, Ruby finds out and removes Shari from school and sends her to a private school. I think one where her brother Chad goes. Ruby starts filming their lives and it feels dystopian. Eventually, Shari starts her own channel and Ruby refuses to give her a shout out on her channel. She says she made it on her own and now Shari has to do the same. Once Shari succeeds, Ruby tells her that she'll be taking a percentage of her earnings since she only has a following because of her. Chad starts acting out and gets sent to a troubled teen camp. He starts therapy with Jody and eventually Shari does too. Chad tells Shari to just agree and play along so things will get easier. Right as Shari is going off to college, Jody thinks she has demons in her and takes over her room. Shari describes seeing the lotions on the bedside table and seeing Ruby sneaking in and out of the room, suspecting something was going on but can't confirm it. At some point later, she tries asking to go into her old room and grab something of hers, and is refused entry. Chad and Kevin get banished from the home by Jody for their foul behaviors, aka being men. Shari is told she can't contact them. At some point, she tracks down Chad and shows up trying to talk to him and blurts out something about Ruby being abusive. He rejects her reaching out and tells Ruby, who punishes Shari, telling her she's no longer a part of the family and can't see her siblings, and Ruby acts like she's the victim in the situation. Shari is lost, and a grown man, her father's age, takes advantage of her and molests her. He had something to do with school, a principal, or a teacher. He insists on teaching her how to please her future husband by practicing everything except for full-on sex, and I'm grateful for how it was described. I don't need the direct names of the acts. I get the severity from that alone. It all started when he had been kind verbally and she came to him with a panic attack and suggested they go skin to skin to calm her down. I don't know if anyone needs to hear this, but don't fall for that. That is definitely not something you need to calm down, especially not from a grown man. That can maybe be a comfort in a very serious relationship, but absolutely not with just some random person you know, especially not an authority figure. Even if I was having a panic attack and my partner's first words were "take your shirt off," I'd be repulsed. No. How about open a window, get me a water, or just sit with me and maybe several hours later we can cuddle. But don't call it skin to skin. That sounds so creepy. Anyway, this guy is a total creep. Gets her location on her phone, accuses her of dating guys her age, which would have been more appropriate. She goes and confesses to the situation in church, and they banish her from the church. Fuck religion. Blech. I feel so much sympathy for her. She's constantly turned away when trying to get help. She's smart and drains her account that Ruby has access to and puts it into a private one. When Ruby finds out, she takes Shari off the family car insurance, and Shari tries getting her car title from Ruby. She gets close with neighbors who give her a key and a safe haven. They take her in and care for her. The woman there takes Shari to Ruby to get the car title, where it seems to be an ambush, and Ruby berates her until the woman gets Shari out with the car title. This is the last time Shari spoke with Ruby. Shari finds out her younger siblings have been left alone for 5 days, so she calls CPS, who don't really do anything. Sometime later, she gets a call letting her know the police are at Ruby's house, so she rushes over to hear about the arrest and everything. She doesn't share names or details of what her siblings went through, stating that Ruby never gave them the choice and protection of anonymity, and she doesn't want to follow suit. I skipped a few things that I'm not sure where to put. Chad said in an 8 Passengers video that he wasn't allowed to bed for several months, which caused Ruby's cancellation, losing followers, and people started clipping and finding red flags in their videos. When court was happening, Shari asked viewers to help and send her any incriminating footage they could find, and so many people came to help. That's beautiful to me. She had gotten a letter from Ruby, who apologized in her demonic ways and put the blame on Jody. Shari, Kevin, and Chad seem to have reconnected, and she's even adopted a cat. Chad says he thought about writing a book but won't because Shari already did. But she did so well in only telling her story that if each child did that, I'd read all 6 books. He should write one if he wants to. He was a little more brainwashed in the Jody cult, or acted like it, so I'm curious on his perspective on all of it. Book 2, Where Am I Now by Mara Wilson. I gave 3 out of 5. This is Mara Wilson's autobiography, the actress who played Matilda. I do recommend this if you're curious about her. I only gave it a mid rating because it's overly sexualized in a way I found really difficult to consume to the point of it making me uncomfortable. I did enjoy the rest of the book though, and learned that I relate to her a lot. She jumps in time a lot, so I will too. She was a child star right away. After Mrs. Doubtfire and Matilda, it became harder to get roles though. No one wanted to give her more adult roles, and she was bored of always doing childish roles, but she kept it going for a while. Her insecurities started young. I can't imagine what the industry losing interest in you at 10 would do to your self-esteem. Always being around adults as a kid, she learned what sex was and tried making jokes about it, while also being disgusted by it and also intrigued. At 11, she got her first crush, and after that, it's like she was sex-obsessed and insecure all the time. She felt bad going for the same roles as Scarlett Johansson, and her mother told her some child stars, like Anthony Michael Hall, start out cute but don't grow up as cute. This pissed me off on a few levels. Her mother shouldn't be calling specific people ugly, that's just mean. She also shouldn't be implying that her own child is turning out to be that way too. I'm sad Mara felt like she wasn't as beautiful as Scarlett. They feel the same level of beautiful to me. But with a mother like that, of course she doesn't see that. If you're going to make your child feel anything less than beautiful, then don't have kids. She talks of dating a guy who early on she tells him that she wishes she had a button that she could push to give her confidence and reassurances. He excitedly offers to be that button and tells her to tap him. When she does, he spills out compliments, and that's the cutest damn thing. They stay together 3 years until ironically they break up because he can't handle her low self-esteem anymore. I get that being a lot, but maybe don't start off directly offering to fix that for her, just to say that that's the problem later on. In college, she's scared to do much because she doesn't know who wants to be friends versus who wants to party with Matilda. She develops so much anxiety and OCD quirks. She reads a book called Kissing Doorknobs and suspects she has OCD like that character in the book and tries telling her dad, who suggests they go on vacation as a response. She slips the book and a card for a doctor in his luggage, and later he sets up the appointment where she's diagnosed. I had a literature teacher where my teacher recommended this book to me and Speak, and I wonder if she was trying to ask me if I was a rape victim with OCD. Later in life, Mara realizes the author of Kissing Doorknobs is the parent of one of her Matilda castmates and gets a conversation with her, telling her how important and helpful the book was for her. Another beautiful moment, and what a small world. When Mara's auditions had been rejected for a year, she and her dad, her mom had passed at this point, decided she should stop acting, for now at least. She took about a decade off and started writing instead. She had a one-night stand that kicked off when she was in for the night, and the guy showed up at her door saying he forgot something and then kissed her, very cinematically. She gets talking about all her sexual thoughts to someone who suggests she write a performance about it, which she does. The book's lost me at this point. She eventually reconnects with Danny DeVito, who tells her he had got an early copy of Matilda to her mom to watch it before she passed away, just before the movie's release. I'm confused how she didn't already know about this. I knew this tidbit of information before reading the book, and I always assumed they had watched it all together, but I guess not. But why wouldn't her mom even mention it to her? Or Danny, for that matter? So strange. Mara seems to have a strong connection with Matilda, and I can feel that a lot while reading this. Book 3, Future Boy, Back to the Future, and My Journey Through the Space-Time Continuum by Michael J. Fox and Nell Fortenberry. I gave 3.5 out of 5. I was leaning towards a 2.5 rating, but the end got me, so here we are. This is a behind-the-scenes stylized autobiography of Michael J. Fox, and specifically his time working on the Back to the Future franchise. It's a short 4-hour read. Some parts seem a bit cocky. If I'm remembering correctly, he even said that himself. So that all put me off this. I did learn a bit though. Marty was originally played by Eric Stoltz, who had a more serious approach to the role. He was replaced after filming half of the movie. That's so crazy to me. It took filming half a movie to realize it wasn't working. Michael was the first choice initially, but couldn't do it because he was already working on Family Ties. But everyone ended up saying, fuck it, this guy doesn't need to sleep. And he went on to work on Family Ties during days and Back to the Future at night, only getting a few hours of sleep each day. The movie broke records in post-production time, getting the editing and special effects done in time to release 10 weeks later. I can't even seem to do that with my tiny little YouTube videos with minimal editing. Huge props to the team. Michael had asked Eric if he wanted to join him on this book, which he declined, but after decades, they met up at Michael's house and swapped Marty stories, which was left out of the book as per Eric's request. Eric was successful himself, but I can't imagine the pain of losing a role like that, especially halfway through filming. After that epilogue came Michael's acknowledgments that were 10 full minutes long. He made sure to thank everyone, which is admirable. Although I don't love his attitude fully, I did still enjoy this. Book 4, I Wrote This for Attention by Lukas Gage. I gave 4 out of 5. An autobiography on Lukas Gage, aka the guy Nate beats the shit out of in Euphoria. I had seen Assassination Nation, but I don't remember him from it, probably because it was really gory and I wasn't really focusing. I know him from Euphoria and his interview on Just Trish. I don't like his character on Euphoria, so he didn't really stand out to me until I saw him on Just Trish, and after listening to him talk as himself for an hour, I was intrigued. He mentioned this book, and here I am. He's a great storyteller. I was entertained throughout. This is very dark, and there's an animal scene that almost made me give this a 2, but he didn't do anything himself, so I continued reading, and I'm glad I did. He's only 30 and has had a pervy dad, a heroin-addicted brother whose beloved girlfriend died so young, ironically after getting clean. A creepy camp counselor molested him as a preteen. A sad preteen girl tried to fuck him in a Chili's bathroom and he panicked and didn't do it, so they blocked each other. I'm so concerned for that girl and why she was in that place herself to feel like she had to do that. He was ripped out of his home and sent to a troubled teen camp after his mom found 2 Vicodin in his room. 2. Are you kidding me? I understand your other son is a heroin addict, but not even talking to this one when you find 2 pills and instead hiring people to kidnap him and torture him in the wilderness is insane. And I don't know how he ever moved beyond that. That's abuse and those camps should be abolished. He spent his teen years in an intense relationship with a troubled girl, later having a guy kiss him and make him curious with men, so he had boyfriends and married one after a few weeks. His husband cheated on him and gave him a sour cocktail of 2 STDs. This is why I always say cheating is so horrible. Not 1, but 2 STDs, which can still be transferred with condoms. Some are deadly. Even the non-deadly ones can have weird effects and cause other issues in some people that could cause death or extreme illness or disability. There is no world where cheating is not that big of a deal. He smartly left his cheating husband, punched a window, went to therapy, and found out he has borderline personality, which helped him understand himself a bit more. He pushed his way into acting, and it's working out so far. He's doing the best he can, and I applaud him for still trying. He's also a self-proclaimed pathological liar, so I'm hoping the contents of this book are true. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Book 5, Vagabond by Tim Curry. I gave 4.5 out of 5. Tim Curry's autobiography. Dr. Frankenfurter, Pennywise, Nigel Thornberry. This man is truly a delight on the screen, and now with this, a delight to the page as well. I am intrigued how he managed to share so much without boringly only focusing on every detail of work, while also not sharing personal details of his love life, and still making a thoroughly entertaining book. I forgot to recap this when I finished it, so I don't have much else to say other than that, and that I am so happy to hear how much he loved being Nigel Thornberry, and also saddened to hear how much love and care he had put into his beautiful home that he had to give up when he had his stroke because it was no longer accessible to him. I do recommend this book. Book 6, The Diary of a Young Girl by Franke. I gave 3.5 out of 5. I heard about this book so often throughout school, but it surprisingly was never required reading, so I didn't read it until now. It was an interesting read. I think what surprised me the most is the misunderstood angel perception that victims get. I think I was so hung up on her dying that I had thought she'd be this precious little angel, but really she's just like any other teenage girl who thinks a little too highly of herself and hates her mom. We get a few entries before she's in the annex, and boys will walk her home from school, and she'll write about how much boys want her, and how they'll have to work for her, and how she still won't want them, and you go girl, but also you were like 13. Then she goes to the annex, and they share the space. It's her sister, her mom, and dad. A kid named Peter, his parents, and some old grouchy man that this little girl is sharing a room with. Excuse me? Why? They're all cooped up in there for about 2 years, and you're gonna put this little girl with a strange old man cramped in one tiny room? That does not seem safe. Luckily, we're not told anything happened, so hopefully nothing did. I always thought it was one tiny room with all of the people, but it's a whole multi-level apartment. They have to use bedpans sometimes, but it is way better than I had imagined. They get food and other things delivered to them so often, so they weren't completely living off one survival stock the whole 2 years. They did have to live in terror, though. About a year in, Anne develops a huge crush on Peter, who is a couple of years older than her. This thought process is so interesting to read. She's madly in love with him to the point that it hurts, and all she wants is for him to like her. They hang out a lot, he does like her, they start kissing regularly, and then Anne is like, gosh, why does he like me? I don't even like him. I wonder if they would have ended up together if they had survived. 2 years in, the annex gets discovered, and they get sent to camps where most die within the year. Somehow her dad survived. He read Anne's diary and had it published. I guess he censored a lot at first, but I think the full version ended up being released, and I think that's what I read. He wanted sexual thoughts and Anne's hatred for her mother to be cut out. 2 entries felt like they were written by him. I couldn't help but wonder if he had forged some. One was Anne taking accountability for hating her mother and calling herself horrible things, and I think the other was in reference to himself. Those two just flowed differently, but I don't know. The dad gave me weird vibes. I guess when they first got to the annex, he was telling Anne all about sex and prostitutes quite often. I'm so confused why, when you're in entire seclusion, you decide that's when you need to heavily discuss sex with your barely teenage daughter. Despite that, this was a decent read. A nice reminder that no matter what you're going through, being a teenager is universal. Book 7, Semi-Well-Adjusted Despite Literally Everything by Alyson Stoner. I gave 4.5 out of 5. Alyson Stoner's autobiography. I am so excited for more memoirs from people of this era. I seem to have read so many from people whose prime were before I was born, so this time period I feel a bit more connected to. Alyson, the kid that was in so much of Disney Channel in the 2000s. Most of this is about being a child star, with the final quarter of the book being the last 10 years. Before I say anything, I do recommend this, so if you don't want anything spoiled, please skip ahead. Alyson grew up witnessing horrible boyfriends of their mother. Their mother told them that they wanted to be a star, and it took them a really long time to realize it wasn't their own dream that they had been chasing. Alyson was supposed to be Hannah Montana and Mitchie from Camp Brooke. I think one was offered and the other was their own pitch, but both were obviously given to different people. Miley had the famous dad that would attract older viewers, and Demi has insane vocal capabilities. Losing out on roles is part of the business, but these were their roles. I can't even imagine the damage that would have on a child. They held their head high, though, even becoming friends with Demi on the set of Camp Rock, with a shared bond over their eating disorders. That is, until the second movie when Demi had checked out mentally. Alyson was on the plane where Demi punched another dancer. I never realized they were there. They went to rehab for their eating disorder, and I love that these exist, but I hate the way they are. Not letting people move, stretch even, is incredibly unhealthy. They should monitor patients so it doesn't happen in excess, but a little bit of exercise is needed for everyone. Same with the forcing everyone to eat. I might be misremembering, but I think they said they were forced to eat a huge amount of mac and cheese. Again, they should be monitored so they aren't counting calories while also making sure they are getting the right amount of calories. The people serving them the food should be doing that. They should be allowed to choose at least some of their diet. What if they're vegan, allergic to something, celiac? But no, they're all forced to eat the same. Why something as unhealthy as mac and cheese? I don't know. They should be taught how to get healthy more than whatever this hell is. This is like telling an alcoholic they can't drink anything, not even water. It makes zero sense. They auditioned for the Hunger Games while in the facility where you're supposed to have no outside contact at all. That is, if you're not a child star in the need of a paycheck. So ridiculous. Side note, Jennifer did amazing, but Alyson was more book accurate. They discuss how acting as a child actor was hard because it was difficult to understand what was real and what wasn't. There's an actor I respect a lot who says he'll kill people in movies because it's pretend, but he won't kiss anyone in movies because even while it's acting, it's still kissing someone else that isn't his wife. That's how I imagine it is for children, especially in dramatic or horror roles. Hopefully with technology advancing, real children will stop being on screens at all. Alyson starts posting online and gets booked for a social media tour, where they were confused why they seemed to be the only one to bring a thought-out set. I remember this when it happened. I was confused as well. Their dancers' paychecks weren't going through, and they found out that all of their money was gone, every cent of it. They managed to pay their dancers and then start over. They reconnected with their long-lost father, finding out that their mother had threatened him and banished him away. Hearing how much he wanted to be there and will be there for her now was touching. At the beginning of this book, they give a long trigger warning, and for that I am grateful, because there was a rape scene. I accidentally listened a little too far for comfort, but that's on me. There was a warning. I was just being overly optimistic and thought this was going to be a narrow escape part, and then the rape scene would happen later, but nope. If you're reading this book and get to where you think a rape is about to occur, skip that chapter, or at least several pages, as it is graphically detailed. I still think that after skipping a part of it. They didn't shower or change after, so when the offices opened, they could get a rape kit done. Even if you don't plan on reporting it, always do the rape kit. I'm so proud of them for that, and for having the strength to not immediately scrub all of that off of them. Soon after, Alyson got a call from Missy Elliott to return as the little white girl dancer for her VMA performance in 2019. Alyson speaks so highly of Missy. I'm happy they had that. Then they went on Ellen, where they were promised they could talk about their current and future projects, but Ellen cut them off and gave a TV to this minimalist who turned around and donated it. They moved away from Hollywood and live a more peaceful life now, only doing what they truly want to. I like that they went through a lot and did schooling in psychology and now are semi-well adjusted, despite literally everything. Book 8, Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old, by Brooke Shields. I gave 4 out of 5. I thought this was going to be a sad reflection on why she specifically is not allowed to get old, because she's considered a sex symbol, is a model, etc. But it's actually really relatable on how women as a whole aren't allowed to get old by society's standards. I'm younger than the 40 to 50 demographic she's talking about here, but simply just being a woman at all made this very relatable. She talks about going in for a labiaplasty due to discomfort and how it's deemed cosmetic and not covered by insurance, which is such bullshit. The male doctor threw in a few vaginal tightening stitches against her consent and expected a thank you. The unwanted procedure added to menopausal sex becoming extremely painful. She went in for a different medical procedure and the doctor waved at her face and told her that they could fix all of that. Excuse me. I remember going in somewhere once with a very specific plan, and they said, no, we need to fill your face with goo here, 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 and here. I don't get why places do that. The only way it would have been an upsell would have been if I had done the filler, hated it, and still did the procedure I wanted anyway. But at that point, I wouldn't want to go to that doctor after they fucked up my face, and I definitely wouldn't recommend them. Why don't medical, even cosmetically medical people want to provide polite service anymore? A wine connoisseur joked about himself being a 72 vintage, and Brooke responded joking about being a 65 vintage, referencing the years they were both born. And he told her that she shouldn't be telling people that. She shouldn't tell people her age. She discusses parenthood, starting a business, and many sexist ageisms throughout. She has a fun way of writing. I really enjoyed this. I only knocked it down because the chapter on sex, she mentioned someone telling her that sex is very important in all relationships, and I don't believe that. She didn't agree or disagree. She talked about wishing that she had explored more of her sexuality and tells her daughters not to wait until marriage and to explore themselves. I get telling them not to feel shame if they choose to explore or partake before marriage, but directly telling them to just feels so gross to me. They'll have enough pressure to do that early from everywhere else. They don't need it from their mother. She has other books that I do plan on reading. Book 9, My Lucky Life in and Out of Show Business by Dick Van Dyke. I gave 1.5 out of 5. This is the first of 3 autobiography books written by Dick Van Dyke that I'm planning to read. Here, as the title says, we follow his career in show business. I chose to read this because he seemed like a wholesome guy, and he just turned 100, so I was curious what he had to say. I read the first half of this and moderately enjoyed it. It was written similarly to the Barbra Streisand autobiography, where it's almost entirely about the jobs they've had, with little personal detail. His felt a bit lighter though, so I was enjoying it. I took a 3-week break before I finished the second half, which may have gotten too personal. He was married, cheated, balanced them both for a long while, then left with the mistress. He wrote it as if there was no other option and that he wasn't remorseful, and I lost a lot of respect for him. What did I expect from the 100-year-old man who married someone half his age? I'll still attempt reading his other books since I've already waited their whole times at the library, so I might as well. Sometimes I seem to ruin my admiration for people by reading their autobiographies, yet I keep reading them. Book 10, Keep on Moving and Other Truths About Living Well Longer by Dick Van Dyke. I gave 2.5 out of 5. The second of his memoirs. I did end up reading it. I did enjoy this one a little bit more, maybe because my standards had dropped after the first. I still didn't love it though. I do plan on reading his most recent book as well. Here he's about 90 and he talks of his ex-wife passing, his second wife passing, and then marrying his friend who was there for him while his wife was dying of cancer. That's just gross to me. He acts like he wasn't cheating, but seeking intimate emotional support privately from someone you feel chemistry with while your partner is sick and dying is absolutely emotional cheating and so messed up. You should be there with your wife, especially when the one you're going to is half your age. In reading his books, I'm starting to see that no one is as wholesome as they seem. He also speaks of life later on, his Lifetime Achievement Award, his joy for life, and tips for keeping on. That's all I have for today. These used to be one of my favorite types of books. It was interesting to get into people's minds and hear their experiences, but at this point, I think I've read too many. They all seem to be sexual assault happens, some sort of cheating happens, bad things to animals happen, and I usually end up liking the people they're based on, often written by, a little bit less.